Okay. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the Board of County Commissioners public hearings on the budget. There's a series of them this afternoon. The first one will be described to you what we're going to be doing momentarily. The purpose of this public hearing is to accept and consider testimony on the proposed 2021 budget for Law and Justice, Clerk's Office, District Court, Prosecuting Attorney Office, Sheriff's Office, the Coroner, Superior and Juvenile Courts, Public Defense, and Pretrial Services. This is a hybrid public hearing. Those wishing to testify have joined by Zoom, emailed comment, or mailed comment. If you wish to testify, please visit the Thurston County homepage online and select Announcements of Public Hearings on the left-hand side. The information to join the public hearing remotely is posted there. If you do not wish to testify but would like to listen and follow along, please watch the live stream through the Thurston County YouTube channel to help us manage our attendance. By way of introduction, I'm John Hutchings, Commissioner. I'm Chair of the Board. To my right is Vice Chair Commissioner Ty Menser, and Commissioner Gary Edwards is excused. We also have County Manager Ramiro Chavez and Assistant County Manager Robin Campbell in attendance. And our Clerk of the Board, Amy Davis, is also assisting us. So now, this public hearing is now open. Robin Campbell is going to present information on the proposal, written comments submitted, and to give us a high-level description, total budget, and changes to the budget proposed for 2021. And Robin.
Thank you, Commissioner. My name is Robin Campbell. I'm the Assistant County Manager. And this afternoon, we will be reviewing your preliminary budget and inviting public comment. And I am going to jump right in the interest of time, because I believe we have at least one judge joining us this afternoon who needs to get back to the bench. So I'm going to share my screen. Is it up?
It's up. But Robin, let me ask you this. Do you want me to go ahead and put out the information regarding testimony, time limits and such?
Yes, please do that, Commissioner.
I will do that, so that's out there right up front. Thank you. Elected or directors have an opportunity, an optional opportunity to speak to the board about their own budget in fewer than 4 minutes. And then we will open up for public comment. A citizen has 3 minutes uninterrupted for comments and or questions. And an official will provide a brief response or offers to get back to a citizen if the answer is detailed or complex. And then the citizen will have 2 minutes to follow up or comment. And if he or she has additional questions, staff will get back to that individual. There you go, Robin. Thank you.
And just to clarify, Mr. Chair.
Excuse me, Robin. Go ahead.
And that process is per budget, per department?
Yes, that's
Yes.
department.
Per office, per department.
Make that clear.
Thank you. Okay, Robin.
Okay, so this afternoon we're here for a public hearing. And just to briefly recap how we got to today. We've been preparing for this day all year long. RCW 3640-070 sets the date for the public hearing. It specifies the first Monday in October and allows for the public hearing to be continued for up to 5 days. The very next section in RCW 3640-071 allows counties to select an alternative date for the public hearing on the first Monday in December. And that is the date we have chosen. We discussed this schedule with commissioners, the county manager, myself, budget staff, on January 30 and February 18th. So all the way back to January, we were talking about how this is the date for the public hearing. The approved schedule was published in budget instructions in June for the entire county, although I can show documents that we'd released it even earlier than that. On September 9th, we provided a reminder for officials to save these dates on their calendars. We published the detailed schedule in your budget binders and reviewed them again in early October. The preliminary book was available online and in hard copy on November 23rd, 2 weeks prior to today, pursuant to state law. And this hearing was noticed in the Olympian on November 23rd and 30th. So that's just kind of the context of how we got here. All kinds of work has gone into preparing these budgets. This afternoon, you'll hear from the Law and Justice offices and departments at 1:30, or starting now. At 4 o'clock this afternoon, we'll have general government. This evening, I'll give an overview and open up a time for comments on any section in the budget. And then tomorrow we'll take transportation, environment, land use, health and human services, and capital. So we've got a very full afternoon and evening on both days. Just as a very high level preview, we're talking about the operating budget today. In total, in 2021, we anticipate over $368 million in revenue, and you are approving expenditures of $371 million. We have discussed in detail the variance in those, and so we're going to jump right in now to the overview. This afternoon, as you said, I will do an extremely high-level introduction of the officer department. I will invite the elected official or department director or their representative to say a few words if they'd like to do so. And then each citizen who would like for each office and department will have an opportunity to provide comments to the Board of County Commissioners or ask questions to the officials. The official will have an opportunity to provide a response, and the citizen will have a last opportunity to provide a closing comment. And then we'll do that for each office or department and recess until the next hearing begins. So today we'll hear from District Court, Superior and Juvenile Court, the clerk, the coroner, pretrial services, prosecuting attorney, the sheriff, and public defense. Any questions before we move into District Court?
Questions? Go ahead.
Robin, can you explain for the public's benefit what's happening at 6 p.m.? What's the purpose of that session?
So we wanted to provide an opportunity to anyone who is not able to attend on a weekday afternoon to still come in and provide comments about the budget. So this evening, I'll provide a kind of a broad but still high-level overview of the entire budget. And then anyone can speak to any section of the budget. Again, it's in recognition that not everyone can come to an afternoon meeting on a weekday.
Will the officials be present? No.
No. No, and if anyone has questions in the evening meetings, if I'm not able to answer them, then we will find out the answers and get back to them. And that may happen this afternoon as well. If the questions are asked that are complicated or, require some research, we'll get back to the person who's asking.
So just I would just comment, if you can make 4 p.m., don't wait till 6 p.m. Because 4 p.m. you'll have that direct opportunity to hear from the officials involved.
That's right.
Okay, got it.
And clarification, even though members of the public are on Zoom, however, they want to make comment at this hearing or at the 4 o'clock one, they can still have time at the 6 p.m. for public comment.
That's
The
right.
same folks, okay,
It's open.
thank you. So now you can begin. Is this where the elected or director has that optional opportunity to speak to the board about their own budget fewer than 4 minutes?
Now, Robin will provide, first of all, an overview of the first office.
The overview first and then moving, okay, thank you. Go ahead, Robin.
Right. So again, this is a very high overview. I recognize that our offices and departments do so much more than we can encapsulate in something very brief. But district court, we have judges Brett Buckley, Sam Meyer, and Kayla Wilcox, and court administrator Jennifer Crichton. District court hears our misdemeanor, traffic, small and civil claim cases, and also runs the mental health and veterans court. This year, your preliminary budget includes adding a dedicated IT support person. The FTE will be embedded in our IT department, but the funds to pay for that person are in the district court budget. And the person that we hire will only work with district court. So that will provide them the technology support that they need in a modern court. And I want to say how much I appreciate not just district court, but all of the offices and departments. But this afternoon, we're joined by Judge Buckley and Jennifer, and I would ask Judge Buckley if he would like to say a few words.
Thank you, Robin. Yes, I will. And as assurance, I've started the timer on my phone, so I will go not a second past 4 minutes. Mostly what I want to do is I wanted to thank the commissioners, Chair Hutchings, Commissioner Mentzer, Commissioner Edwards. This is an incredibly difficult year to have to be the legislative body for a local government and to take on the task of doing budgets when, you know, everybody is struggling and there's really no federal support, at least not adequate federal support. You know, I really appreciate all the work you've done, and Ramiro and Robin, thank you both very much, keeping all of us informed and helping us all work through really difficult times. And I want to give one more shout out to Kelly Slaughter and Dr. Abdulmalik from Public Health. They've really done extraordinary work, in my opinion, both with their accessibility to, specifically speaking, district court, their willingness to meet with us, you know, at our request, and then the expertise that they've provided us. You know, the one way I have to judge how effective their expertise is that we've listened carefully to what they've said. We've implemented policies in district court to appropriately adopt what they've said. And as far as I know, we have not once been contacted by contact tracers since March, which for me is a really good sign. And nobody on our staff, as I know at this point, has tested positive for the virus. So I appreciate the resources that the county has provided to public health and the expertise and support that public health is sharing with the rest of the county. And finally, I want to thank Chair Hutchings. This is probably the last meeting I'll be on with John. And John, you've done an excellent job. You've been a big supporter of the courts. I've always appreciated that. And you did yeoman's work as we were discussing what now seems to be an ancient issue of a new courthouse need. I'll remind everybody that doesn't go away. But John, I really appreciate your efforts in that regard and your efforts as a commissioner for the last 4 years. It's been my pleasure working with you.
Thank you, sir.
As to our policy, or as to our budget request, as Robin's slide indicates, the commissioners have approved on a preliminary basis our request for one in-house technical support, and that need has been made very clear. It's one we've had for a long time, but has been made even more clear by how we operate now, where our courtrooms are totally closed to the public. And that being the case, we have to broadcast our proceedings live on YouTube in order to accommodate the constitutional requirement for public access to those proceedings. We do have parties given the option to show up in court if they wish, but the vast majority of folks, both on our criminal and civil side, have chosen to appear remotely for hearings. And you can appear in district court remotely for any hearing with the exception of jury trials, which we haven't started yet because we continue to have to postpone it based on the public health situation. So having appropriate IT support is absolutely crucial to how we are running a courthouse in the age of coronavirus. And I am grateful for the commissioners for tentatively approving that budget item. And I now show 3:50 on my time. That's all I have to say. Once again, thank you to all of you who've done such hard work on this.
Thank you, Your Honor.
Yes, thank you, Your Honor. So now we're going to open up the public comment opportunity for people to address citizens, to address the court, district court, Judge Buckler, whomever. Again, citizens have 3 minutes of uninterrupted time for comments and or questions. And our clerk of the board, Amy Davis, will keep track on the timer here in the boardroom, and you'll be notified when your 3 minutes have expired. The official then provides a brief response or offers to get back to the citizen if the answer is detailed or complex in nature. And then the citizen can follow up with 2 minutes to follow up comment or question. And if he or she has additional questions, staff might be able to get back, or we'll get back to him or her as well. So I'll start with the folks in the boardroom, or the folk in the boardroom. Only one person has signed up, and that's John Pettit.
Hate these masks. Good afternoon, commissioners, and I will be, of course, making comment and asking some questions. I want to note, first of all, that it appears that there may be a little inaccuracy when the actual advertising for this hearing committed. There was no advertisement on the 30th. The last advertisement was the 29th. And there was a violation in proper notice for this meeting, which I've already addressed and you are all aware of. So without proper notice, we're functioning. Now, back to the judge, because we have a topic about the district court. And Your Honor, I actually want to tell you, I appreciate what you've been doing. And apparently I need to ask you a chain of questions before you're able to answer back any answer to me. And, you know, obviously there's a number of different things. One of the things I wanted to know from you, which is an easy, quick one, which budget element have you actually received that you're working from? There's a large book with the entire budget element, and then there was some other portions that was added on, and the actual budget book doesn't have accurate numbers based upon the added documents that we have. I've never actually received a correct full budget book based upon the information that Ms. Campbell gave me. So the one question is, from what documents are you working from on your budget? Another question is, I think it's really important, and we had interaction before about the topic of a new courthouse, and while we may disagree, I don't see anything in the particular budget here related to helping correct your physical conditions for district court. And was that something that should be addressed somehow? Because someday we're going to go back to the real world and be able to see people eye to eye. In fact, I didn't even see any maintenance issues to speak of addressed for this coming year in the budget for the courthouse. And do you see any particular problems with the facility that you function with out of Building 3, whether that's going to be adequate or not, considering that? Other than that, the numbers not matching up between the new documents and the actual big book, they're not the same. Not a lot apart, but they're not the same. Is there other concerns, particularly since this last year, there was a choice of making budget reduction, which affected your department also, that somehow you may be short on what your actual needs were.
There you go, Judge.
All right, thank you. All right, John, good to hear from you. First of all, as to our requests, we have numerous requests, and as you know, structurally, nothing's been done of significance to the facility that we are in. But we've had to triage our requests based on the reality of the world we live in right now. And so we've focused on things that allow us to continue our operations in the form in which we have to. So having a in-house technical support to allow us to operate a very technology dependent calendar or calendars was the number one thing for us, just so we can continue to operate. You were sitting in the lobby last winter when the rain just poured through the roof. You were in fact sitting on the chair right next to where the rain was pouring down. So you know what the facility issues are here, and you know, we'll wait and see what happens this year. But right now, our number one need was for the in-house technical support. There are other issues that we had hoped to address both in probation and mental health and veterans court staffing. But I understand, given the very limited resources available, that we're going to have to consider those down the road. And we're going to make do best we can with all the things that we have. So I hope that's the best I can tell you right now.
Thank you, Your Honor. It's
Just a moment, sir. Just a moment. You ready to start? 2 minutes? Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Your Honor. I appreciate hearing back from you. And yes, I understand you have a lot of ongoing issues and problems. And perhaps because of this COVID situation, we've learned how to do things in a technical way, and perhaps that will ease the burden of the needs of the facility, not necessarily the lack of maintenance that's occurred, but allow you, because as I had noted many times, and I think you've heard it before, is there's a very large portion of the parking that's been used for district court functions. So with that, I thank you. And my last little bit of comments for the commissioners is we clearly need to take care of our facility. We need to provide options for district court to function perhaps on a very regular basis through Zoom meeting processes. We need to make their facility safe and manageable, and perhaps by a few changes, we can alleviate some of the other pressures on the courthouse. Thank you.
All right, thank you.
Comments or
Commissioner Hutchins, may I have one last opportunity to respond there for the last comments made by Mr. Pettit?
Judge, please, yes.
I just want to point out that I totally recognize that the need for the facility that we were advocating for previously has changed based on our understanding of how we can operate in a virtual world. I think we definitely need to relook at that. It does not in any way reduce our need for a new facility. It would just change how that facility would look. So for example, we do not have, certainly in district court, space to conduct a jury trial in a time when we need to have appropriate distancing between all the people in a room. So if we were to redesign a new courthouse, it might have many fewer courtrooms, but it might have some much larger rooms so that we could in fact have these proceedings, which now the county has had to go out and rent space in a different building just to allow us the opportunity to try to conduct trials. And with the ongoing numbers in the virus, we've had to postpone even using that space until we can get a little bit better control on those. But it doesn't take off the need for a courthouse down the road.
Thank you.
Thank you, Your Honor. We are now going to call people that have Zoomed in or joined by Zoom for public comment. When you are called on by the county manager, please state your name and where you reside in the county. And again, you'll have 3 minutes to ask questions for law and justice type questions or regarding district court. And then you'll get some answers, and then you have 2 additional minutes if you need so.
So I'm going to call you based on the order that I see on the screen, and for the names that I recognize that are not part of county staff or elected officials. The first that I have is Ms. Paula Holroyd. Would you wish to testify? If you do, you have 3 minutes. Please unmute yourself.
No testimony.
Thank you. The next person that I recognize that perhaps may like to provide public testimony is Mr. John Adams.
No, thank you, sir. Appreciate it. No comment.
Okay, thank you. The next that I have is via phone number whose last 4 digits are 7067. If you'd like to provide public testimony related to district court, please unmute yourself. You have 3 minutes. And again, the phone number with the last 4 digits of 7067. Just disappear from the screen, so apparently not.
Okay, now we're going to the conference call.
Good afternoon. For those who have joined us this afternoon via conference call, if you'd like to provide public testimony related to the District Court 2021 budget, please unmute yourself, state your name, where you reside in the county. You have 3 minutes. No, sir. Any comments from the commissioners on this?
Okay, so that concludes the district court. And now we're going to the prosecuting attorney. Robin?
Actually, we're going to Superior Court next.
Oh, Superior Court.
So
Okay.
I'm going to share my screen. I think it's this one. So you should see the
Yeah.
slide for Superior Court.
Yes?
So we have, in our Superior Court, we have Judges Eric Price, James Dixon, Ann Hirsch, Chris Lanise, Carol Murphy, Christine Schaller, John Skinder, and Mary Sue Wilson, and Court Administrator Pam Hartman-Beyer. This afternoon, Pam and Georgia Christian are here today to hear your comments and take your questions. Superior Court hears civil and criminal cases and conducts DUI and drug courts. The budget for next year adds a lease and security for offsite courtroom space to operate under COVID requirements. And that is not only for Superior Court, but it also provides the space for District Court, as Judge Buckley was just commenting. We've also added funding for a judicial officer, and that is subject to approval by the state legislature. So in the hope that the state should provide us a new Superior Court judge, the board has provided a small amount of money for after the judge is elected. Now, I can see on this slide that I didn't complete the comment that I started new for your consideration. And I apologize that this slide is incomplete, but what we were going to put in there is the legislature passed a bill this last session in 2020, and that requires the court to have to appoint attorneys for guardianship cases, I believe, and Pam can speak better to it than I can. And what we are recommending to you, and it's for your consideration during your budget deliberations in the next 2 days, that we add $250,000 to the budget for 2021 with a proviso that if that legislation for any reason does not take effect, that appropriation would lapse. And that we would look at spending partway through the year to see if the estimate for the amount necessary was accurate or if it needs to be adjusted. So that is new for your consideration. We're talking about it now to get it on the record. Otherwise, this proposed budget is as published. And I would invite at this time Pam Hartman-Beyer to make any comments if she should wish to do so.
Just before that, Robin, can you clarify that this proposal includes juvenile court?
This proposal does not include juvenile
Okay.
court. We have another slide on juvenile court.
Thank you.
Thank you, Robin. So my name is Pam Hartman-Beyer. I'm the Superior Court Administrator, and I'll just start by apologizing that our presiding judge, Eric Price, could not attend. He's in court this afternoon. Just to start on our first request, which was for a ninth judicial officer, I want to thank the commissioners for seeing the need for that ninth judicial officer. We are currently 2.75 judicial officers short, and hopefully the state legislature will see that need and will write in new legislation for that ninth position beginning in November 2021. With the UGA, which is the Uniform Guardianship Act, that is new legislation which begins in January 2021. And Robin and the commissioners, I did learn late Sunday night that they're gonna postpone they're gonna start the new UGA cases on January 1st, but Title 2610, which is the old non-parental custody, will have until the end of June to resolve. So there will be a little bit of cost that I'm unsure how that will impact. So I think making it a proviso is the perfect solution, that I can only use that funding for those new cases is the perfect way to figure out what those ongoing costs are going to be. At this time, it is truly just an estimate, but it is an unfunded mandate that the court doesn't have any ability to really estimate at this time. And then in 2022, we're going to be looking at the unfunded mandate of guardianship over adults cases. So it's just going to keep coming in, and I'm happy to work with the commissioners on that moving forward. So really all I want to say, commissioners, is thank you for collaborating with us on this process and listening to what our concerns are and working with us during this really difficult year. Let me know if you have any questions.
Thank you. Thank you, Pam. Is there anybody else from Superior Court that will be making an address?
George is here to answer questions,
Okay.
And so am I.
Okay. Then we'll open this up for public comment. And again, a citizen, you have 3 minutes uninterrupted for comments and or questions. Official will provide a brief response or offer to get back to the citizen if the answer is detailed or complex. Then the citizen has 2 additional minutes to follow up with comment, and then we will give a response or get back to him or her. So the only one I have signed up again in the room is John Pettit. You have 3 minutes, sir.
Thank you. Commissioners, first a brief comment again. This comment has to do with, again, the amended documents for the amended amount for the budget that would be for Superior Court in this particular case, as opposed to the one that was actually provided in the budget book. Unlike virtually any of the other departments I took note of, the amendment actually reduced the amount of dollars in the budget for the Superior Court. The amendment was typically marked as adding more money on, but if you take a look at the actual budget figures, the amendment and the other, you're taking money away. Now, I can appreciate that we do need to add an extra 250 based upon legislative content, but I would certainly think that that would be a good idea. So on to a couple of questions, which I'm going to have, because I'm a number cruncher guy. And so rather than just be thankful for hopeful getting what we get out of the commissioners, kind of my question is this, is based upon these numbers, had you taken note that the amended budget is actually a reduced figure from the initial budget book that came out? I addressed another issue, which is facilities, and did does the facilities currently that's over there, based upon the idea you're going to get a new security gate system in, at least it's kind of budgeted in for this next year, is that going to somehow meet the criteria for the actual needs of the department? Or do you believe that the envelope needs to be improved a little bit better for your working conditions and the safety of the personnel? You know, obviously the question is are the buildings in good enough condition to actually work in for your purposes? Because quite honestly, there is no money planned to improve the facility other than maybe the entryway to Building 3 from what I could see in the budget. So if you had any particular thoughts about other needs you have, and yes, dollars and cents count. That's what budgets are all about. Could you please convey that?
Okay, Ms. Hartman-Beyer, do you have an answer?
So I guess, John, it would be helpful if I could see what specific documents you're referring to so I could answer thoroughly your question. So I'd like to actually just get back to you after I see your documents. So I'm going to just defer and get back to you later after I see the documents you're referring to.
Okay, you have 2 minutes.
Okay. Well, I appreciate that. I realize that.
Robin, you like to?
Oh, yeah, Robin, you have an answer?
I'll stop here, let them,
Yeah.
without using
I
my time.
apologize for interrupting. I do want, you know, not only for the board, but for the public to see what Mr. Pettit is referencing. So this is our website on the budget that's public facing. And this year we had the preliminary budget book. You may recall that due to the delayed date for final decisions, we had a very, very short time frame to produce the budget. And so we did the preliminary book. And once the book was just about ready to go, we found something in the salaries calculation in the budget system that needed to be corrected. So on the same date that we published the book, we also published the corrected report so that it was all available for the record. Offices and departments are mainly using the Questica budget system for their numbers, and those are reflected in this amended preliminary report. But the entire body of the documents reflects the decisions that the board has made to date. So that's so people can see what he is referencing.
Thank you, Robin. You have 2 minutes.
Okay, thank you. Commissioners, I will address first the person from Superior Court. Thank you. I'll look forward to getting back. As a public hearing, that's here for the opportunity for the commissioners to take information in. You giving me information later, responding to my questions, doesn't actually provide any formal information provided to the commissioners in a hearing status. So I'm going to request that you make sure you forward that on to them also. And that is a concern that I have. One of the comments I'm going to have, because Building 3 over there is basically a Superior Court building along with the clerk's office, law library, a couple other things. And while I appreciate the fact that there is definitely some facility concerns, I do think it would be appropriate to take off the advertising posted on the wall of a new courthouse facility as proposed previously. That has now gone to the wayside. And let's keep our facilities in line with the business of the courts, not necessarily political moving of building more facilities. Thank you.
Can I just clarify? You mean building 2, not building 3, correct, Mr. Pettis?
Oh, you are correct. It is building 2. For the number sequence, thank you for correcting me.
Okay, thank you.
All right.
All right, Robin, moving ahead.
Let me see if somebody from,
Oh, that's right, I'm sorry, yep, please. Public testimony, going to Zoom.
I'm going to call you again for those who have joined us via Zoom to see if you'd like to provide public testimony this afternoon related to the proposed budget for Superior Court. Again, I will ask Mr. Paula Holroyd, if you'd like to testify, please unmute yourself.
No testifying, thank you.
Thank you. Again, I will call to Mr. John Adams. If you'd like to testify, please unmute yourself.
Again, nothing on this, sir. Thank you.
Thank you. I don't recognize anybody else from the public on the Zoom. I do have a phone number with the last 4 digits of 7067. So if you're here to provide public testimony related to the proposed 2021 Superior Court budget, please unmute yourself. You have 3 minutes. Hearing none, I'm going to go to the...
All right, thank you.
Good afternoon again for those who have joined us this afternoon via conference call. If you would like to provide public testimony related to the proposed 2021 Superior Court budget, please unmute yourself, state your name, where you reside in the county. You have 3 minutes. None, sir.
All right, thank you, Romero.
So before we move on, Commissioner,
Yep.
pardon my interruption, but I had noted that the person on the phone with the number ending 7067 had for a moment unmuted themselves, but I couldn't tell if they were starting to speak or not.
Oh, thank you, we'll check.
Excuse me, this is Linda Meyer-Enlow, County Clerk. I believe that's my Chief Deputy, Tawny Sharp.
Ah,
Okay, got
okay,
it.
thank you.
Very nice,
All
thank
right.
you.
That helps.
That helps.
All right.
Thank you.
So moving right along then, next up is juvenile court. Juvenile court is organizationally part of Superior Court, but we do budget for them separately. The administrator is Ted Bryan. He's here with us this afternoon, and then Georgia Christian does the finance. She too is here to answer any questions. Juvenile court provides family court, probation services, and detention services for youth up to age 18. And so I would invite Ted to say a few words if he would like to do so.
Thank you, Robin. First, I'm the interim administrator during a retirement transition. So I appreciate the recognition and being part of the process. I really want to thank the Commissioner's Office for recognition of some of the programs we do offer for kids in our community. It's really important. It's been a really tough year for all department heads, and I appreciate everyone's leadership. The rules change every day, and we're trying to get through them. But really looking forward to starting fresh in 2021. So thank you.
Thank you, Ted, very much.
So commissioners, I should have noted that there is no policy change for juvenile court.
Okay, then we'll just go right to public testimony. And the only one that's in the boardroom is John Pettit.
Good afternoon, Commissioners. Basically, I think our juvenile court system appears to be doing pretty well. We seem to have a pretty robust system for helping young people get directed, and that I have great appreciation for because they are our future. I did have a few questions in regards to the budgeting process. Particularly, one of the things I had run across this last year was apparently there are programs in place such as equine therapy programs. And if you could, I mean, it seems to run around 50,000, 53,000, a variety of dollars. And of course, this year it's changed some because the restrictions. Maybe you could elaborate a little bit about, do you see that there's more need for some of this therapy program and that we should be enlarging our budgets a little bit for things that are going to be giving some of these kids some value? And have you, as the juvenile courts, noticed any increase in some concerns because of the limited ability to function within our society, go out? I have concern for my own kid, and he's a perfect kid as far as every dream kid, so to speak, except I'm scared to death he's sitting at home all the time, and that's not, I don't think it was being healthy. And is there an impact upon your court system that may be flaring up coming this next year?
Thank you, Mr. Pettit. We really don't know. We're very concerned about kids at home, kids and their educational process, but that's for the school district. You know, we never stop being a parent. But I'm a parent to a lot of kids up here. We have lots of programs. It's sometimes never enough with kids, but we keep trying new things. The equine therapy program, I was part of a similar program years ago, and it's really effective with kids. We have great partnership with Heart Strides right now, and some of our other community partners. Probation staff are have a difficult chore trying to supervise kids when we can't always have personal contact with kids and families, but we still continue to operate and not only meet the accountability needs of kids, but do the best we can with the treatment needs of kids.
Okay. Yeah.
You know, and I hadn't asked this one question, and I think it's relevant because I believe your facility over there, which unfortunately there are some kids that have to have incarceration. And I was thinking you may have like an 80-bed facility, and you may monitor maybe 8 or 10 kids that are actually in the facility. Is it reasonable to think that if the kids were to find a different place, that facility might be usable for other purposes for the county? And is it reasonable to think that the kids could be put into an outside home environment? When I say not just home, but a different structure that wasn't so jail-oriented and more becoming of kids. That would be my statement to you, question, and then I have to finish up real quick with comment to the commissioners, which is I believe we need to do better for the kids, and I think at the same time that we could do better for the kids. I believe that we could save some money from building more jail facilities by utilizing the underused space that is there and just create a very small facility available for the kids that need it. So if you could, if I'm allowed to have him answer any question related to the space he needs, is that possible?
Go ahead, Ted.
Well, I can tell you by RCW, we're required to have a detention facility in Thurston County. The unused space that we have as I think it was 2009, there were budget cuts, and we pretty much cut the building in half. We don't know, our population was just starting to go up at the start of the year, but then with COVID restrictions, it kind of slowed our process. We do use both open units, and the rest of the building we use for program space, for other alternatives. We look at least restrictive alternatives with kids, detention, electronic monitoring, some day reporting programs. We call one program our youth development program. And like you mentioned before, Mr. Pettit, the equine therapy program. So we do try to keep kids out of detention that don't really need to be in detention, that can be serviced in other ways.
Okay. I was just wondering how many are actually in the facility. also.
Yeah, what's your
Currently.
current population, Ted?
We've averaged 8.5 kids a day this year.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Zoom.
We're going to go to the Zoom screen. And again, if you'd like to provide public testimony related to the proposed 2021 juvenile court budget, I have Ms. Paula Holroyd. If you'd like to provide testimony, please unmute yourself.
No testimony at this time. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. John Adams.
Nothing, just appreciate what Ted and Georgia, what they all do over there.
Thank you. I don't have anybody else in Zoom. Good afternoon. For those who have joined us via conference call, if you'd like to provide public testimony related to the proposed 2021 juvenile court budget, please unmute yourself, state your name, where you reside in the county. You have 3 minutes. None.
None. Okay. Thank you. Robin?
So yes,
Go ahead.
yep, moving right along. We are now going to discuss the Office of the Clerk. The head of the clerk's office is our elected clerk, Linda Meyer-Enlow. She is joined with us this afternoon by Tawny Sharp, who's apparently on the phone. And the clerk's office records Superior Court proceedings. They maintain the court's records pretty much in perpetuity. They collect fines and fees ordered by Superior Court. This year, the preliminary budget adds an extension of funding for positions who are working on scanning our records into our digital system. And that is funded by the auditor's office through a transfer from the auditor's recording fund. And at this point, I will invite Linda to make any comments if she should choose to do so.
Thank you, Robin. My name is Linda Meyer-Enlow. I'm Thurston County Clerk, as Robin stated. I first off want to thank the board and the board staff for all of the assistance that has been given to my staff during this very difficult budget process. I also want to introduce Tawny Sharp, who is my chief deputy, who is the major producer of the clerk's office budget. Anyway, I want to welcome any questions that anyone might have. Thank you.
Thank you, Linda.
Is there anybody in the boardroom that would like to ask questions or take advantage of this? Okay, Mr. Pettit.
Okay, first a quick little comment is that I, as you may be aware, have had some opportunity to have some interaction with the clerk's office because of filing paperwork or other issues related to the court. So I do have some concerns of which I'll address a little bit in my closing comments, but I wanted to ask the clerk a couple questions. One is I took notice that your actual budget for 2020 was approximately 4.8 million, and your projected budget for this next for the 2021 is about 4.635. Is there, the first question is there a significant issue that is going away that is going to render you with less ability to provide the services that your office requires lawfully? And then as a person that's utilized your office, I'm going to ask a question because I realize it's real friendly for attorneys that can go on to whether it's Odyssey or some other program to access files. It's not real friendly for just the general public to try to access files that might be electronically available. Is there some additional investment that can be made to streamline that program where it could be accessible to the general public?
Okay, first off, I'll answer the Odyssey question. For pro se or self-represented litigants, the state has and I believe still is working on a process to make that smoother. My office does have public terminals available in each of the 2 courthouses for the public's review, research, and printing of documents from case files. As far as the budget difference, I will defer to Tawny if you're able to unmute yourself and answer that question, please.
Hi, this is Tawny. Yeah, there's really been no cut in any services, John. The difference is we've had several retirements, long-term, even at the management level, that we have replaced that are coming in at lower salaries, as well as we've had some vacancies that of long-term staff that have gone to other departments that also, so it's more those type of things that are occurring, no change in services.
Thank you, Tawny.
I'll take a good pooch you got there. Okay, I'll continue with my next 2-minute cycle here, which is, well, I'm glad to hear there's no change in service. I do, like I say, I have concerns about whether the facility, and I'll note as an example, it's good to have those terminals available in the clerk's office and everything. If you can actually get into the clerk's office, and at times I've tried even by phone to reach through during a time I needed to go with a trial issue, and I couldn't get in. I spent 40 minutes on my cell phone crossing town and never could make connection. So I went over to the FJC in order to file some papers. And so whatever it takes to help smooth line the element, perhaps some type of better pass-through system that the public can actually access their clerk's office during this time would be greatly appreciated. And I'm afraid this time might be continuing for a number of months. So my only other note to the commissioners here is I'm not sure that the clerk's office couldn't be benefited by actually being relocated as such. If there became a spot available, that would not have to be going through security all the time, because that is a hindrance to be able to actually get in filing papers. While I know you can do a lot of things online, there's people like me that's not quite as capable. And so I just would prefer that a little bit better. I do think you're doing an excellent job. Thank you.
Just one comment for you, John. We do have a Dropbox that's available for the public, so you don't have to go in through security.
Okay, last my 2 minutes, and I understand that, but in the fearful nature of an individual wanting to have something stamped that has a date and time on it, the Dropbox is good in theory, but absolutely impossible in actual service there to note the things you're trying to accomplish. So, but thank you very much.
Clerk,
Understand.
Myra Enlow, thank you very much. And Ms. Tawny Sharp, thank you as well.
Right.
Let me go to the Zoom meeting. And again, Mr. Paula Holroyd, would you like to provide a public testimony related to the 2021?
No testimony, thank you.
Thank you. Then Mr. John Adams.
No, nothing here, sir. Thank you.
Thank you. For those who have joined us via conference call, if you'd like to provide public testimony related to the proposed 2021 budget for the clerk's office, please unmute yourself, state your name, where you reside in the county. You have 3 minutes. None, sir.
Thank you, sir. All right, again, clerk, thank you so much. Robin, it's yours.
All right, here we go with the coroner. The office of the coroner is under the direction of our elected coroner, Gary Warnock, who is here with you this afternoon. The coroner's office reviews and investigates deaths occurring in Thurston County. And for the coming budget, the board's preliminary budget includes funding to purchase a CAT scan machine that will improve information that the coroner has available and will reduce the need for autopsies. So in the long run, the machine will pay for itself and actually create savings in the county. This is one-time funding for next year. And with that, I would invite our coroner to make any comments that he may wish to.
Hello, everybody. This is Gary Warnock, Thurston County Coroner. I'd like to first thank the board, Robin, and the auditor's office for their financial help. Sharon Brown, Olivia, and all their help. The CT machine will reduce the number of autopsies, but will also generate revenue. Right now, there is a national shortage of forensic pathologists. And right now in Washington State, there's a crisis. Eastern Washington has no traveling forensic pathologists that travel east of the mountains. So the only two that are over there right now are in Spokane, and they're part of the Spokane Medical Examiner's Office, and they only do a couple of the counties that require autopsies, and those bodies are transported there. All the other counties currently are transporting their bodies to King County and Snohomish County. I've reached out to some of those counties and even some of the counties west of the mountains in order to save them autopsy costs. It would put a little bit more money in their pocket, but we're generating revenue in that as well. So other than that, any questions?
Yeah, we'll get to that, Gary. I just want to tell you, Gary, this is Hutch, and I'm thrilled beyond measure with that CT machine that you're going to be getting. Now, just open for public comment. I believe Mr. Pettit would like to address the coroner.
It's not often, I don't ever really want to see you personally, but that's okay. The coroner, I think you're doing a great job and everything, and I know that you end up getting to see a lot of the worst situations. I am happy to see that they included some additional funds for your machine, but I was also concerned, though, that between the other departments, there was a suggestion that there was a bumping related to 1.5% employee benefit. And I took note that between the budget book that I received and the amended version, there doesn't appear to be any increase in your budget whatsoever. So I was a little concerned whether or not your employees are going to get the opportunity to receive. So I'll be asking you that part. And then another question, which is coming up, I expressed some concerns earlier about the mental well-being for community, especially with the situation. And at one point I'd heard in a commissioner meeting that the rate of suicide had gone up rather drastically this year. And if you could, if this is possible to give me kind of a roundabout number, what's the typical level of suicide? What's the current level of suicide for this year? And does that increase your costs that you may end up needing even more if we continue to be going down a pathway for a higher rate of suicide based upon like the current conditions?
Okay, in regards to the budget, as far as the bump and increase, Robin, can you answer that part?
Yes.
And then John, I'll get to the suicides and everything else after Robin speaks.
Thank you.
Thank you, Coroner Warnock. Yes, the budget does include the 1.5% cost of living increase for the staff in the coroner's office. What you see in that document and what needed to be corrected was in the budget system functionality for the increase for the MTP employees. It wasn't calculating quite right. So that was the fix that we made. It wasn't that the COLA was not included for all employees. So yes, the budget includes the cost of living for the coroner staff.
Okay, thank you. And then John, in regards to the rate of suicide, so we started off the year, we were averaging right around 6 suicides a month. And that's above average for Thurston County. Generally, I want to say last year we had 50. And then we were on track to do 80 this year. Right up until, I want to say, the end of August, it started tapering down to 3. And then September, October, and November, we had 1 for each month. So it just kind of dissipated. Sadly, there are young teens that are falling into that category, and I firmly believe it's all related to COVID. Our most recent one was this weekend, and it was a 13-year-old. But if there's more autopsies to do, sure, that will affect my budget. But by law, the county has to provide funding for autopsies and the disposition of indigent and unclaimed persons. So I'm given a portion of budget to cover those costs, but if I go over, by law, the county has to cover those costs.
And we do.
Yes, you do.
Okay, well, thank you. And so I don't think there was a lot of other question which I had. I obviously, sometimes you see these CNN shows and you see lines of these trucks, trailers ready to haul off all these people. I don't think our refrigeration facility has been stressed, but you might just touch base on that. And as far as my addressing the commissioners is, here is an example of an office that's done extremely well in dealing with issues that would pull all of our hearts out to have to deal with it. And at one point in time, I even went over there because I found some bones from underneath one of my houses. And they have the expertise to identify that it was apparently a baby deer that had crawled under many years ago. But I appreciated that. So thank you very much.
And not only,
Thanks, John. And in regards to our capacity is 32 bodies.
Okay. And is that close to the amount you need?
We've never surpassed it. I think the most we've had in here at one time was just over 10, maybe 12.
Thank you very much.
and not just CNN, but also PBS. And so with that, we'll check the Zoom.
Let me check the Zoom in again. Ms. Paula Holroyd would like to provide public testimony in the coroner's budget.
No testimony this time, thank you.
Moving on. What else do I have?
Mr. Adams?
Oh, Mr. John Adams, you just came up. I was looking for your name. Go ahead, sir.
Nothing on this one either.
Okay.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you. For those who have joined us via conference call, if you'd like to provide public testimony related to the proposed 2021 budget for the coroner's office, please unmute yourself. Just introduce yourself, stating your name, where you reside in the county. You have 3 minutes. No, sir.
And Gary, hold on just a moment. Have you had any questions? I haven't turned to you to see if you had any questions at all. I just don't want to neglect it. I just imagine you'll jump in. Okay. Coroner Warnock, thank you so much, sir, for joining us.
Thanks, Hutch.
All right. And Robin.
Okay, we're moving on with pretrial services. Pretrial services in Thurston County is led by Director Mary Ann Clear. She is with us this afternoon. The pretrial services conducts pretrial investigations and screening of in preparation for court proceedings. They make recommendations for pretrial release. They supervise released defendants, and they connect defendants to community resources. This budget adds 2 positions to expand our diversion program to pre-charge, and that will be funded by the treatment sales tax fund. It also adds 2 positions to expand these services to district court, which was a recommendation out of a lean process that created the separate department a few years ago. So these are exciting changes to see. And I would, at this time, invite Marianne to make any comments if she should choose to.
Thank you, Robin. I want to thank the Budget Office and the commissioners for all of the work done on the budget. It is a difficult year to be doing budgeting. That's not news to anyone here. I also want to thank the commissioners for recognizing the need and supporting the efforts of pretrial services in trying to address some of the systemic issues and using the best practices. And I wanted to thank the Pretrial Services Governing Board and the Criminal Justice Partners for collaborating with me and being innovative and strategic in addressing some of the systemic issues that we have as a result of COVID. And I wanted to thank the public that is here today for their support as we do our work here, and that they're here to get the information. So I am here to answer questions.
All right, thank you, Marianne. Mr. Pettit?
Good afternoon. I first note to the commissioners is I do appreciate the fact that through a good system here, pretrial services, we have an opportunity to save a lot of money for causing people to be incarcerated that don't necessarily represent a high risk for a continued problem for specific elements. Unfortunately, I'm going to ask the director here of this one a kind of a tough question, because this last year there was an unfortunate incident of somebody, I believe, that may have been under your pretrial services that decided to go on a rampage and ended up shooting at somebody or whatever, drove down the freeway and may have hit a state patrolman and killed him. Is there any additional supplies that can be done, monitoring that would be an alert to you if these people are not where they're supposed to be? Is there, I mean, we need to, if there's somebody that's outside the boundaries of what you're, maybe you don't even tend to that. I think you're supposed to follow up and tend to the location, what these people are doing. Is there any, like a monitor system that says this person just left Thurston County to be able to bring some alert to a problem or something? I mean, I'd prefer a shock collar that you can stop them, but you can't stop people from doing bad things. They do bad things, and you have a hard job. But I'm just wondering, is there some other technology or something that can help assist? And is there a cost? I'm glad to see an increase in your budget. That's good. But I just want to know if there's something more that we're missing, because we're saving another couple $100,000. So that would be my question for you.
Thank you, Mr. Pettit. No need to apologize for answering a complex or asking a complex question. One of the things that you heard me say earlier was a thank you to my criminal justice partners for working collaboratively in a typical adversarial system. We have been fortunate enough here in Thurston County to be working with technical assistance providers, and we are working with the Center for Effective Public Policy, the Center for Court Innovation, as well as several other researchers. And we're in the process of looking at our pretrial system and looking at some of the best practices. So with time, we're looking at one of the questions that I had reached out to one of the researchers for the Center for Court Innovation is the effectiveness of electronic home monitoring as a tool for pretrial services, and looking at adding some of the tools. So looking at what you're talking about, and we're in the process of validating a new risk assessment tool. We have a tool that we are using, a risk assessment tool. It's been validated, but we are looking at other risk assessment tools. And so we are looking at how we do business and how we can improve business. One of the best practices is doing universal screening, and so expanding to district court, as Robin mentioned. That was a recommendation from 2015. So we are slowly but surely going through our entire system and how we do business and making sure that we do it the best way possible. So there are ways that we can improve. We don't always do everything the best that we can, or we do things the best way that we can. And then the key is looking at how we do them and how we can always improve them. So does that answer your question?
Well, I think it answers my question. That I guess I'm only going to put one more kind of, since I have the other 2 minutes here, maybe a quick part of that.
Okay.
Am I correct in understanding that pretrial services is also a recognizing spot for need for addiction, treatment for addiction or mental health therapy, that part of a pretrial program might be that can be set up amongst the different sides to require an action or a process to demand these people approach that?
Yes, that is what we just started recently, a diversion program. And part of that budget that you saw earlier was to expand that diversion program to add two additional staff to move towards pre-charge. And so because it's funded by the treatment sales tax, it is for folks that have substance use disorders or mental health disorders, or sometimes both, and that will need behavioral health treatment. And it's voluntary, so they would need to be able to agree to go to treatment as part of the outcome.
Okay. I'll wrap up my last 2 minutes in saying that, yes, I do believe it's a valuable department. At one point, I was ready to, when that frustration situation happened, oh, no, that doesn't work. But I think that the county is well served by this department. I would hope that this department has a lot of leeway to be able to help access those funds that can help provide treatment, because although I won't get in any debate about it, but I would have to believe that a very large portion of incidences that require the law process would in fact be associated with either addiction issues or mental health needs. Thank you.
Okay, yes. Commissioner?
Marianne, can you, I think this is somewhat responsive to Mr. Pettit as well as being probably of general interest. Can you describe what the expansion of your program into district court will mean in terms of practically vis-a-vis how things are handled today? More people supervised in a different way. What does it mean on the ground for your program to have that expansion into district court?
That's a great question. So that would mean that currently we don't provide services to district court at all. And those individuals who go through district court are not being assessed for their recommendations from my department, who is a neutral party, and then having those recommendations provided to their court for their preliminary hearing. So we will now, or if this goes, if approved, then we will be able to provide those recommendations. And so the prosecution and defense and counsel will have that. And then we will be able to supervise individuals in the court. They will have an opportunity to have supervision in lieu of bail. And we will be able to monitor individuals for substance use as a condition of release, if that's something that's ordered by the court. And then we will be able to serve both pretrial and district court. So it will be a more holistic approach to our court system as opposed to a siloed approach. And what is, not all jurisdictions have pretrial services, but I think as what Mr. Pettit had referenced, those systems that do tend to have pretrial services tend to have cost savings because they can have people out in the community and instead of being incarcerated. And especially with COVID, we're not having jury trials right now. And so cases are taking a little bit longer to resolve, or a lot longer. And so we will be able to move some people out of custody and onto supervision or into the community. Does that answer your question, Commissioner?
It does, thank you. So just to wrap that last point up, there are some, right now, COVID or no COVID, some people are in jail on a cash bail because the judge doesn't have the option of your services you provide, which might be a reasonable alternative to that incarceration.
Correct.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Marianne. Now we're going to the Zoom. See if there's any public
Ms.
comment.
Paula Holroyd would like to provide public testimony.
No, thank you.
Mr. John Adams.
No, thank you, sir.
Also, I see there's somebody else join us today, Ms. Jedidiah Haney.
Thank you.
Sorry. Would you like to provide testimony?
No, thank you.
Okay, thank you. Can you let me know how you pronounce your first name?
Yes, it's Jedediah.
Jedidiah. Thank you, sir.
Phone? Romero? Thank you, sir.
Good afternoon. Those persons who have joined us via conference call who would like to provide public testimony related to the proposed 2021 pretrial services budget, please unmute yourself, state your name, where you reside in the county. You have 3 minutes. None, sir.
Thank you, sir. Marianne? No pun intended, you're in the clear. And
Thank you.
All right, moving on. Next up, we have the Office of the Prosecuting Attorney. And Prosecutor Thunheim is with us this afternoon, and so is his Chief Deputy Prosecutor, Christy Peters. The Prosecuting Attorney's Office is responsible for the criminal prosecution services for our county on behalf of the state of Washington. They also provide civil legal advice to all of our county offices and provide crime victim services. The upcoming budget is pretty much cost neutral for the prosecutor. We appreciate his creative proposals that allowed us to address some of the needs of his office. He has converted a crime victim legal assistant position to permanent, and there are also staffing adjustments that with the elimination of one position, the prosecutor will be able to fully fund 2 existing positions and convert legal assistant positions to permanent. All of these things are done with no increase overall at the policy level. And with that, I would ask Prosecutor Thunheim if he would like to make some comments.
Yes, thanks, Robin, and thank you, commissioners, for the opportunity to be here and to speak just a little towards our budget proposal this year. And by the way, Commissioner Hutchins, I also want to, as has been before, express my thanks, my gratitude to you for your service over the last 4 years. We actually go way back to your service with the Olympia Police Department, and I appreciate the entirety of your career. But the last 4 years in particular, your support for our office and our ongoing partnership in the criminal justice arena, I've very much appreciated. So thank you.
Thank you, John. That's meaningful. Thank you, sir.
I just will make a couple of brief comments to I guess basically reiterate what Robin already talked about. I do want to say, however, that I also appreciate the board being willing to, for this year, make an exception to our normal 2-year budgeting process by just letting us do a budget for 2021 because of all the uncertainty that COVID has brought to our budget possibilities in 2021. Similarly, I took the same approach in terms of trying to propose a very conservative budget. I felt it does help us correct some of the things that we have been working on over the years to get corrected. And particularly, I've had two civil deputy prosecutor positions on the books at part-time for several years. And the savings we experienced this year with some turnover in our office gave me the opportunity to bring those to full-time. And I appreciate the board's support in letting us do that and get that matched up with what our current practice is. And then also the ability to continue the legal assistant position that we added to our victim services program to allow us to try to better keep victims up to date, informed and what's going on in their cases and be responsive to their needs. So from a very high level, as I said, we proposed a very conservative budget with little or no increase over the last year. I did that again to really try to be a partner to the board and to the rest of my colleagues in terms of managing the uncertainty that the COVID has brought to our budget and forecasts. That being said, I anticipate that I will be bringing some additional requests into 2022, again, depending on how the budget plays out and how our revenue forecast looks like as we get into 2021, later into 2021. But for now, I'm very much trying to be a team player and stick within our means.
All right. Thank you, Prosecutor. Mr. Pettit, assume the position.
You never miss a chance to talk to the prosecutor. I mean, I will have to tell you that many people don't know that you have one of the larger budgets as a department. And I know that you have some limited, you have a couple different locations that you function out of. So one of my points or questions which I'm going to be asking you is, have you found that the ability for staff, whether it be attorneys or other staff, to be able to work remotely can remove some of the necessity of pressure of space that you have? I mean, I work from home all the time, what work I do. And as such, I think that, I guess my question is, does it work to have them work remotely if that's a good alternative to helping save some costs associated? Another question which I'm going to be asking you about is, I believe you have some programs that also help direct people an opportunity to get into treatment. Ultimately, we can charge them, we can send them to jail, or maybe we can get them into treatment and give them a try to be back to normal without that process. Could you elaborate on that? And is there a need for more funds? Because I note that there's still a considerable balance available in the treatment sales tax fund balance. So I'd just like a little relationship back on this, and then I'll ask maybe another or direct to the commissioner or something.
Okay, great. Actually, John, I really appreciate the question. The technology issue that you raised is really a good one, and it's one that we're just learning. I'm not sure I could give you a firm answer on exactly what it looks like going into the future, but I can say right now that we do have a very high percentage of our lawyers working from home, or they take turns working from home and then coming into the office if they have to be appear in court. One of the things that's happened is with the expansion of court hearings via Zoom and other technology is that they've been able to actually attend court from home. I honestly don't know what the long-term vision for that is. And I think we're actually, all of criminal justice now is really just starting to think about what that looks like long term. I will say this, just to get to the bottom line. We have learned an incredible amount about what our opportunities are to use technology better. And I think that's a possibility that could reduce our need for space. How much, I can't say, and what that looks like, I really can't say. But we're definitely going to be exploring that as we start to recover from COVID and court starts coming back more live. And then we start really thinking about what could we do remotely. And then as to the program, which that's a question I particularly appreciate because it gives me an opportunity to really talk about our First Look program that's going on. This has been in existence now for a couple of years. And I now have almost 5 full-time employees dedicated to this program whose mission is to seek out cases which can be diverted or some alternative type of accountability can be found. That's the unit that works very closely with Mary Ann's office that you just talked about, where she's adding resources for pre-charge diversion. That's exactly where we're going to be looking at to try to expand our efforts to divert even more cases. And that's going to be, I'm going to just say, that's really going to be a critical part of our strategy in coming out of COVID to help us deal with the cases that have been coming into our office, but we haven't been able to process yet because the courts haven't been able to function at full capacity.
Okay.
And you have something, Commissioner?
Oh, I'm not going to.
Oh, you're not going to interrupt my time. It's okay.
2 minutes? Thank you.
As just a general follow-up, there is supposedly a potential that someone seeking an additional criminal treatment tax or criminal tax of some nature, is that something you would foresee would be benefiting you or I shouldn't say you, but your office, or maybe better yet, the citizens of Thurston County, an increase in funding somehow?
You know, I do believe that there is opportunities to invest in criminal justice, and particularly in the alternatives and the reentry programs that Thurston County is really looking at closely now. And I actually believe that investment would over time produce a return on investment. So in the long term, it could save us funding, very similar to what we've experienced in the juvenile system over the last 15 years, where we've seen this substantial reduction in incarceration costs by investing in those programs that you were pointing out earlier. Where that revenue comes from, I'm not really going to take a position on or a comment on, but I do think those investments could be very important for the future of criminal justice.
Okay, and thank you. And just my last little bit of comment to you from my time.
Very short, go ahead.
Is that I was taking note that currently the prosecutor's office is scheduled for $400,000 worth of funds from the treatment sales tax. And I would probably encourage a growth in that number. I mean, I realize it isn't something that comes out of the general fund. And I'm not sure that just maintaining more than $3 million or more in the fund is as valuable to us as having people get treatment. So I would encourage anything that's going to help provide some and help people get a better life again. Because when everybody else has a better life, we as citizens all have better lives.
Thank you, Mr. Pettit. John, thank you, prosecutor, very much. Did you have a comment, Commissioner?
I did.
A question, go ahead.
For John. John, I know this falls under I think it's under the public health budget, but could you I think it fits into what question you were asked, which is the LEAD program and the support that the board has supported, again, under public health. But you're the best person, I think, to explain to the public what that's about.
Yeah, so we are really excited that we're it looks like we may have a partnership with the state healthcare authority to receive a state grant funding to try to restart our LEAD program. We tried a LEAD program several years ago, and we really just did not have the right funding strategy to make that successful, in my opinion. But let's see, last session, I think it was last session, the state legislature authorized some funding and state grants for LEAD startups, and we applied for one of those. And the healthcare authority reached out to us, and we are actually in negotiation right now to see if we can reach final contract. If that happens, what that does is it affords law enforcement an opportunity to potentially divert folks who are dealing with either mental health or substance use disorder issues pre-booking. So the person would not even be booked into the jail. It would be, and we'd avoid perhaps any kind of incarceration if they were to successfully enter that program. And so it's another tool that we can add to this toolbox or to this portfolio of different options to give the people some diversion opportunity. And people are different and they will succeed in different programs. And so our strategy is to have like I was saying, a kind of a portfolio of different options and trying to get the right people in the right one. LEAD's going to be an incredible addition to that if we're successful in moving forward.
Thank you.
Thank you, John. We're going to the Zoom and then the conference call. Jonathan, stand by.
Ms. Holroyd, like to provide public testimony on the 2021 prosecutor's budget?
No, thank you.
Mr. Adams?
Nothing on this, sir. Thank you.
Mr. Haney?
No, thank you.
Thank you. For those who have joined us via conference call, if you'd like to provide public testimony related to the proposed 2021 Prosecutor's Office budget, please unmute yourself, state your name, where you reside in the county. You have 3 minutes. None, sir.
Prosecuting Attorney Thunheim, I want to take this moment to say thank you very much for the work that you've been consistently doing over the last number of years with the Law and Justice Partners, with LEAD, First Look, LEAD Again, Hope Science, and now with the state HCA. And you're always fresh on every topic, and you're always keeping us surprised what's going on. I appreciate that. I know the board appreciates that. So thank you, sir.
Thank you, Commissioner. I appreciate it.
Robin.
All right. So next up we have the sheriff. The sheriff's law enforcement and the sheriff's correction budgets are separate. We'll start with law enforcement, and Sheriff John Snaza is here with us this afternoon, along with Heidi Thompson, to answer your questions. The Sheriff's Office provides emergency response and law enforcement in the unincorporated county. The preliminary budget includes 2 new deputies for the Sheriff's Office, adds a resource officer for the Rochester School District, enhances funding for training, and increases the equipment set aside in the Equipment Rental and Revolving Fund, also called the ER&R Fund, so that money is available when his office needs to replace some of the equipment that they regularly need. And with that preview, I would invite Sheriff Snaza to make any comments if he should wish to do so.
So Sheriff Snaza and Chief Heidi Thompson, thank you for joining us. Sheriff, you're on, sir.
Good morning. Can you hear me okay, Commissioner?
Yes, sir, we can.
I would first off like to thank Commissioner Menzer, Commissioner Edwards, and also you as Chair, Commissioner Hutchings, as well as County Manager Romero Chavez and Assistant County Manager Robin Campbell and all of your staff for all the hard work in the budget process that you've all done, especially since kind of what John Tunheim went through it, going from a biannual budget to an annual budget, especially during these trying times. I really appreciate the flexibility, and I do recognize the hard work that Robin went through. I'm going to give most of the credit to Robin because she's the one who has to go through all this most. So I just want to say that I'm definitely committed to the safety of our community, and I'm very passionate about keeping our community safe. And I recognize the commitment that I've made to the citizens, and I take pride in making the best decisions I can with the public's funding. I think it is important to always remember that these are public funds. And my commitment to the board and to our citizens is to be a good steward of these public funds that are provided to the sheriff's office. And I fully recognize that these are very trying times that we currently face, not only in law enforcement, but to all our citizens. Many of our citizens continue to face hardships, both professionally and personally. And I just want to say thank you to the entire board and the staff for all the hard work, and to all the offices and the directors and all of the staff that work for Thurston County of all the tough times that we've gone through in the last year. And I definitely am looking forward to a way better year in 2021. And what I do want to say is that I am looking forward to many more conversations about the future of the sheriff's office of 2021 and how we move forward. So I just want to say thank you for all your hard work. I really appreciate it.
Well, Sheriff, all I can say is you're welcome. You're the reason I can sleep at night very well, comfortably. So, any questions yet? Nope. Okay, Mr. Pettit.
Thank you, commissioners. Thank you, Sheriff Snaza. I mean, I truly appreciate the huge task you have to monitor 100,000+ people, maybe 150,000 people that you have to be watching over, plus all the people that may be traveling through the community in every different direction, that you have to keep them within the boundaries of keeping us safe. So that being said, there's a couple of questions. I took a look, and it might be another one of these software glitches, but between the amended version of the budget and the budget book I received, there doesn't appear to be any change in the dollar amount, the total dollar amount. So that might be something to ask a question to make sure your guys are getting their boost in wages for what they're doing. One of my big concerns, I live in the county, and I am concerned that you apparently get to have 2 more road deputies. I'm thinking that's what I heard. And if I understand, Rochester wants to have a on-site school resource officer, but they pay for that themselves, if I'm understanding. One is our ratio for deputies on the road compared to population. Could you give me some insight? How do we rank compared to other counties in this state? You know, could we be below the margin significant, and we need to do a little more to upgrade it, to encourage more public safety, especially with all the homeless issues, et cetera? So that would be my open-end question for you.
Well, thank you, Mr. Pettit. And right now, Thurston County Sheriff's Office is just over 0.6 deputies per 1,000. So we rank 37th out of 39 counties for deputies. And we haven't gotten any report on the latest census report. So we'll have a better accurate statement at the end of next year.
Okay. And do you, a quick little thing, do you feel like as though perhaps you may need a little more opportunity for people on the road during this time, especially with all the extra issues, homeless and other issues? Because I am very concerned about the drug issues. if we stop the drug issues, and is there a program to help stop the drug issues?
Well, Mr. Pettit, we're not just talking about drug issues. We're also talking about homelessness and mental health issues. And so are we seeing an increase in all of those? Absolutely. And are we sending our deputies into places where we're dealing with more mentally ill and drug addiction? Yes, we are. The best part is that we've got a great staff who are recognizing that they're holding off on going into these residents without backup unless absolutely needed to attend emergent. But I can tell you that we are working with other agencies and seeing how we can do a better job serving our citizens.
Okay. Part of my last 2 minutes, if I.
Yeah, but if you're going to cough, please keep your shield down. Thank you.
Oh, okay. My next kind of issue has to do a little bit. I know this last year there was a budget reduction, and I believe it hit your replacement account for equipment significantly. During this particular time where people are always accusing deputies of wrongdoing, is there any provisions in the budget that are going to let us have cameras to mount on deputies that are on the road, and also some of the other structures that go along with it?
During my budget presentation, I did inform the county commissioners that it is something that we should all be taking a serious look at and be prepared for during the next legislative session. Is that I do believe that being able to utilize body cameras for law enforcement not only benefits law enforcement, but it also benefits the citizens.
Okay, well, I'll just close very quickly and just say that when we talk about people on the front line, the people that you call up when you're feeling bad or you're scared, these are the frontline people that help provide us a place that's safe to live. I hope that you can get some of these body cameras in place as soon as possible. It'll also reduce the liability for the county as to the he said, she said of what may have occurred during different particular incidents. Thank you.
Thank you. Any comments or questions? No. Okay. Sheriff, thank you very much, sir. Now we're moving on to corrections. Oh, no, that's right. Well, yeah, we'll do that next. Zoom.
Ms. Holroyd would like to provide public testimony related to the sheriff's budget.
No, thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Adams.
Just want to say I appreciate Sheriff Snaza and all the men and women that work with him on what they do.
Thank you, Mr. Adams.
Mr. Haney?
Yes, I do actually have a question.
Yeah.
Sheriff Snaza, thank you. Sheriff Snaza, as you said, these are the public's funds. So I'm curious, with our low rating for deputies per population, how many deputies could we afford if we were not purchasing such equipment, such as the SWAT vehicle that was purchased, I believe, 2 years ago or a year ago for $700,000? And how many times have you used that SWAT vehicle?
Well, Mr. Haney, that's a great question. First off, we paid not 700,000, 286,000, and most of all that money was money that we've saved up through our emergency repair and replacement costs. And we set up a plan on how we're paying for it through our ER&R funds for the vehicle. We've deployed it, I believe, about 5 times. Just since receiving it, I think about 3 months ago. And we did have a, what we called the MRAP, or the Tactical Response Vehicle, that we got for $3,500 close to 9 years ago. And unfortunately, on the money side of that, it was, they quit making parts for that vehicle. And so it was becoming expensive. But we did recognize the reason why we needed a SWAT vehicle, an armored vehicle to protect the men and women in law enforcement and also the SWAT personnel.
Mr.
Thank you.
Haney, you have additional 2 minutes. You would like to follow up.
Thank you. Thank you very much. I appreciate the correction. I believe that 700,000 figure was a total accumulation of equipment purchased from the U.S. government. So I apologize for not having that number correct. But thank you for the clarification. Out of those 5 times, how many were direct response calls for emergencies?
When you say direct response, direct emergencies, a SWAT call out constitutes the use of that vehicle. So the times that we responded to a SWAT call out is the time that we use that vehicle.
And that's including the flood last year when the vehicle was deployed. Is that correct?
We used, Mr. Haney, we used the tactical response vehicle for the floods because we didn't have the armored vehicle or the Lenco, if you will. But we did use the other vehicle as well, yes.
Thank you, sir.
Yes, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Haney. For those who have joined us via conference call, if you'd like to provide public testimony related to the 2021 Sheriff's Office law enforcement portion of the budget, please unmute yourself, state your name, where you reside in the county. You have 3 minutes. None, sir.
Okay. Go ahead, Robin.
Okay, so also with the sheriff, here we go. We have the corrections budget. The sheriff is responsible for the operation of our adult correction facility, which includes alternative programs that would support successful reintegration into the community. The proposed budget adds 3 deputies for the offsite courtroom. That's for transportation and custody during trials that we hope to be able to start soon. It adds 4 deputies as recommending in a staffing study that we did, I think that was 2 years ago now, perhaps a little longer. So we are getting up to the number that was recommended in that study. And there is funding for psychotropic medication with the treatment sales tax, which I believe is a best practice. And again, to speak on corrections, I would invite Sheriff Snaza to make any comments that he may wish.
Well, Robin, on the corrections side, I just want to say thank you for all that hard work on, and I guess I'm really talking directly to you because we've been talking about it for many years of how we've moved forward in the staffing study and how you're getting us more deputies because in the corrections, we are, even though our population is down in the jail, we have seen a large increase in mental health and more violent offenders. And so the additional staff obviously we're gonna benefit greatly for the safety of the men and women, not only the corrections deputies, but the people who are incarcerated there for right now. And the additional 3 corrections deputies for the off-site courtroom, I really want to say to you and to your staff, thank you for working hard on getting us the necessary staff that we need to ensure that people are safe when they go to court. So thank you.
Thank you, Sheriff, and thank you to the board for supporting those proposals.
Yes, ma'am, thank you. Now, public comment, Mr. Pettit.
Sheriff Snaza, one of the things I just wanted to touch base on is, as of this time, you're going to get 3 more deputies, which for the corrections department. In terms of the study, though, it sounds like as though you're still not going to be up to the number that's actually the recommended number. And how many more deputies would be necessary in order to, so to speak, meet the standard that's recommended in the study that's been provided? And then as a follow-up question, the facility over there, when I was taking a look at the funds that may be needed for investment to maintain the facility, it didn't look like there was a lot of money being invested over there. Are there any particular issues with the correction facility that you know of that appear to be behind the curve as far as needing some particular attention so that we maintain the facility in a condition that isn't going to cost us a lot more money for waiting? Or perhaps you can fill us in on your thoughts.
Thank you, Mr. Pettit. First off, in our staffing study that we did for corrections, the county commissioners provided 7 deputies a couple of years ago. They provided 4 now, and now we're just down 1 legal assistant that is needed. As far as our jail and upgrades, we call it the flex unit, if you will. And we have been meeting, we being the sheriff's office, have been meeting with the commissioners about getting a flex unit and what that looks like. And we've had several proposals and some presentations, and it's just coming up with what is the best fit for Thurston County Sheriff's Office as far as the number of beds needed. And so we've been working through that. And there's been a number of bed proposals, from 120 bed proposal to a 20 bed proposal. So it's just basically it's just we just need money, and to get what we're needing, we're going to have to find out how we can get those funds and how long it'll take to build the facility that we need. And so those are ongoing conversations that we have, but I would say they are very constructive conversations, and we have been very engaging with the county commissioners, and they're understanding our need.
One more quick question for you, then I'm going to make a comment.
2 minutes? Okay.
I had earlier made a comment regarding the juvenile facility and the potential for maybe 80 beds over in that spot as a alternate site. Is it a reasonable, or is it not reasonable, or is it reasonable if you had no other circumstance to maybe use that facility if the juveniles were provided an alternate site that might be available?
Well, that's kind of a loaded question, and the reason why I say it is there are 80 beds over at the juvenile facility. However, it would be a staffing nightmare for the sheriff's office because of how many corrections deputies I would need over there to monitor 80 beds. And then if we're going to go into what we really need for the sheriff's office are cell units, because of our mental health crisis that we're seeing. And the juvenile facility does not offer the bed space that we would need for the mental health crisis that we're seeing. And so it would provide more of a pod-like structure that we currently have over in the jail. And right now in our jail, we're not having issues in our general population. We're just having issues in our cell unit population. So really, it would cost more money to have additional staff over at the juvenile facility.
Okay, well, thank you. I'll just make a short comment to the commissioners and let them, it's a hard and difficult task, and we only have so many dollars in the county budget, let alone the revenue sources. So I'm going to encourage that we're going to have to find a way to solve some of the problem. Maybe some of the other programs to help these people get relief or treatment would help. I think the sheriff's done a great job in both the corrections and the actual law enforcement. Thank you.
Okay, Zoom. County Manager, thank you.
Let me see, Mr. Adams, would you like to provide public testimony on the correction side of the sheriff's budget?
Perfect, you bet. Thanks, County Manager. Sheriff Snaza, just again, appreciate you and the hardworking men and women there at the corrections, if you'll pass that along as well.
Thank you, sir. I really appreciate that.
Mr. Haney, would you like to provide public testimony on the correction side of the sheriff's office budget?
No, thank you.
Thank you. I don't see anybody else on Zoom.
Okay.
All right, moving. Oh, sorry.
Say that again, Robin.
No, go ahead. Is
call.
there anyone on the phone?
I'm going to check now.
Perhaps we need to add money to our budget to get a phone close to you, Romero.
Yeah.
No, that's good exercise for me.
Cord.
Yeah.
Cord.
Maybe a wireless phone, right? Good afternoon. Those who have joined us via conference call, if you'd like to provide public testimony related to the proposed 2021 Sheriff's Office corrections side of the budget, please unmute yourself. State your name, where you reside in the county. You have 3 minutes. Answer.
And a little TV screen so you can see the faces right at your seat.
I know.
All right. Last but definitely not least, for this first set of offices and departments, we have Public Defense. Public Defense is led by Director Patrick O'Connor, who is here with us this afternoon, along with Jose Vargas, his financial chief. And Public Defense provides legal defense services to indigent individuals in our county. The proposed budget includes the addition of a social worker position that will be paid with treatment sales tax funds, and it provides some funding for on-call duty compensation. So with that, I invite Director O'Connor to make any comments that he should wish.
Thank you, Robin. Good afternoon, Commissioners. I'll take a moment to thank the Board of County Commissioners for all their hard work this year, piggybacking on the Sheriff. That extends to the County Manager and Assistant County Manager and staff. Been an incredibly trying year for everyone in this community, and especially those doing their best work on behalf of the citizens to try to forecast budget and financial projections in unprecedented times. So appreciate all the hard work and the support for our department. Particularly take a moment to thank Commissioner Hutchings for all his work for this community and on behalf of our department. Really appreciate Commissioner Hutchings over these past 4 years, you going out of your way or probably just being in your nature to get to know what it is that we do. And I'll cherish some of the conversations we had. So thank you.
Thank you, sir, very much.
So a challenging year for public defense all around, and the criminal justice, law and justice stakeholders all around. Obviously, we've gone through some budget exercises countywide, and our department was no different. As a result, we had a retirement of a 27-year veteran of public defense serving this community earlier this year, and that position was eliminated going into next year's budget as part of that reduction. And so I took an approach, based on, the climate at the time when making these policy level proposals. I did ask for a modest, and I appreciate the board's support on a modest investment on behalf of our attorneys to pay them for their 24/7 service for this community in taking DUI phone calls, which the law requires that the county provide legal representation for those individuals and who are under suspicion of DUI at all hours of the night and all hours of the morning. So I'd appreciate that support. Our other ask that appreciate the support on was a request from that was actually supported by treatment sales tax, and that was to fund our department's first ever social worker position. The Washington State Bar Association standard for public defense indicates that county public defender offices shall have social workers. And so we're thrilled with this opportunity. It sort of ties in with some of the earlier comments that you've heard from our other stakeholder partners, is that this is the next step, I should say, for this department to meet this community's criminally justice involved individuals with behavioral health issues and connect them to the vital social services that they need as we represent them. It's a pilot project over 2 years, and we're very much excited about it. But, we did take a measured approach, understandably, under this financial climate for this year. And we do have a lot of challenges going forward in 2021, we being all law and justice, as we, hopefully emerge from what has been this year, and getting cases back into the criminal justice system as we unpause jury trials and stand that back up. And so 21, I think will present some new challenges, but hopefully nothing like we've faced this year. And with that, I'm happy to answer any questions I can to the best of my ability. If they are down in the weeds on the budget, luckily I have my fiscal manager here, Jose Vargas, who may be able to answer that better than I can.
Thank you, Pat, and welcome, Jose. So John Pettit.
Thank you. I'll appreciate you answering a couple of questions. I'm just taking a note here because the costs apparently for your staff per number of employees is significantly less than the cost for the prosecutor's office. And so I'm thinking that an awful lot of the public defense attorneys are working at a much reduced rate from any of the attorneys that I use periodically for services. And so that being said, approximately how many people do you end up providing services for over the year, and how many of the 40 that you have listed as FTEs are attorney related? Are some of your attorneys also contractual as far as just hiring them by the service, or are they all actual full employees with full benefits? The only other thing which I'm going to ask, which is kind of a mixed question here, is a predecessor of yours, I'd ask your question whether they had enough money to get through the end of the year, and then they ended up needing another $300,000 after the first of the year for another appropriation. And is this budget going to be sufficient? Do you believe it'll be sufficient to get you through all of 2021?
Oh, thank you for your questions, sir. I'll do my best to answer them. In regards to your first question, in terms of my understanding of the question was pay equity. And I can tell you that I'm very proud of Thurston County for a variety of reasons. Very proud to be a public defender here in Thurston County. And one of the things that stands out about Thurston County is we have pay equity with the prosecuting attorney's office. So we're on the same pay scale and same pay plan. So there is no difference between a salaried public defender in terms of where they are on the pay plan compared to their counterparts at the prosecutor's office. So why there's a difference, it doesn't have anything to do with not having parity with the prosecuting attorney's office. It's probably just a composition of where our attorneys are on the pay plan. As to your second question, no, all our attorneys are full-time exempt employees here at the public defender's office that don't work half-time. They work full-time and then some. So we really don't have. We do associate with attorneys in our community, that are independent contracting attorneys to handle representations that are either true legal conflict of interest cases where our office is conflicted out as a result of the rules of professional conduct, and we have to, the court orders that client to be represented by an attorney. And so we do associate with independent contracting attorneys in our community, but all our staff attorneys are full-time attorneys assigned to various units within the department. Your last question regarding budget, my approach is taking budget 1 year at a time. So I'm really focused on finishing 2020. Right now, our forecast puts us in a pretty good position, unlike years past. And to be frank, there's a bit of a silver lining. I think due to COVID, we've had less cases coming through the justice system as law and justice has had to react to COVID and what cases we can take and what cases we really, frankly, due to the nature of the virus that we may have to wait on further review. We've had less trials. We've had significant trial pauses, understandably, for several months this year. So we haven't had to absorb all the cost of trial work and experts and things of that nature. So as far as whether or not I have enough for next year, I think I'll know more next year at some point. We track this obviously monthly and quarterly next year, and we'll see how we're doing. But a lot of those are variable costs that come throughout the year.
Okay.
2 minutes.
2-minute comment is pretty simple. I actually believe, and mind you, I'm not being the conservative person I am. I'm not always into a lot of programs and everything. This is obviously not actually a choice of having this program. This is a requirement by law. But I also believe that oftentimes attorneys giving good recommendations to clients can encourage them to take a pathway, perhaps even treatment or other means that would help people be on the way. I think it's a good program. The building they're in certainly needs an awful lot of work. It probably should be tore down, but I'm not sure there's a space for them to go otherwise. I appreciate the service. A little concerned about some of the, what I would refer to as internal services charges that are programmed for this year as opposed, to last year. It went up to about $100,000 plus for internal services. So I would be emphasizing we might want to take a look at internal services on some of these different budgets to see whether or not they're a little excessively inflated or not. Thank you.
Zoom. Anybody on Zoom?
Mr. Adams, would you like to provide public testimony?
Yes, thank you, County Manager. Director O'Connor, thanks very much. So I just want to make sure I'm correct in understanding. So the 24/7 on-call was never compensated before then, is that correct?
That's correct. Yes, a fact that I was reminded of quite frequently by my staff and personally over the past 14 years that I've worked here and taken those calls. So felt like a good opportunity to address that need.
Absolutely. And so I appreciate for sure that you're doing that to take care of the staff like that. That is a deserved option. So I'm glad they're getting it now then, or proposed to getting it now.
Yeah, thank you for your comment. And ultimately, we get calls from everybody in this community from all walks of life. So it's always reassuring that somebody who's never been in trouble in their life has access to an attorney at midnight because private law firms are not open during that time. So it's a good service to the community too.
Absolutely. All right. Thank you.
Mr. Haney, you'd like to provide public testimony. You have 3 minutes.
Thank you. No, thank you, sir.
Thank you. For those who have joined us via conference call, if you would like to provide public testimony on the proposed 2021 Office of the Public Defender, this budget, please unmute yourself, state your name, where you reside in the county. You have 3 minutes. None, sir. They were just walking away from it.
Commissioner Menser.
Pat, I just wanted to say you brought up your 27-year retiree. I was out on the trails in Miller Sylvania Park with my family on Saturday. I ran into your retiree, and he looked well and healthy and was getting some exercise, so it was good to see him. And that's all I wanted to say.
That's great. Thank you.
And Pat, I'd like to say from the day one, when you stepped into your role as Director of Public Defense, you met challenges, and you had some significant challenges to tackle, and you met those challenges. And you developed additional strategies to meet each day's challenge that came up, and even look down the road to prevent some negativity. And you've got great staff working for you, to include Jose Vargas, who's on the Zoom with us as a financial a staff member. And
thank you, sir.
And well, you're welcome, Jose. And the American Bar Association recipient of the coveted Bigelow Award, Larry Jefferson. You got outstanding staff, and the others, I'm not excluding them. I just don't have all their names here in front of me. But you've done a great job as director, and I greatly appreciate the work you do.
Thank you, Commissioner. I agree with the staff.
Yes, thank you.
Thank you.
And so with that, Robin, you have anything to wrap up?
I do. I would just like to say how much I appreciate all of the elected officials and the department directors and the staff who took time out of their busy days to be with us this afternoon, to have another conversation about the upcoming budget. And how much I appreciate the budget staff who are with us this afternoon, Denise Doty, Patty Risotto, and Olivia Odman have all joined us, and their work has brought us here. The work of the finance staff across the county. We would not have a budget this afternoon to talk about if it were not for them. And I would also like to recognize that our new commissioner-elect, Carolina Mejia, has joined us this afternoon, and I appreciate her being here to get a running start on the budget. This afternoon, we'll, at the pleasure of the board, we will recess until 4 o'clock and come back then and talk about general government.
So thank you. This meeting is now in recess until 4 o'clock, when we'll take up general government. Thank you.